Miserable Machines, a Transformers G1 Season 1 Episode 13 analysis. It's insane how Transformers G1 Season 1 Episode 13 Fire in the Sky, aired on December 8, 1984 in the United States, contained the line, "Are you happier as a warrior than a scientist?" That is so crazy and real and fucked up, no? It's Starscream that sort of found him and brought him back to life, and it's sort of trying to make peace with your past only to have it work against you, so you destroy it kind of thing. It's so crazy they did that. In this essay, I will. For the sake of my mind and your own, I start when they find Skyfire in the episode, and I will mostly focus on the happenings between Starscream and Skyfire, as well as their motivation and the result of such, and the relations of dominance and submission among Decepticon ranks or something. I can and will go on tangents and do some visual analysis due to my love for art and storytelling. I will ask you to meditate on these two images and think about how they relate to each other before you take me for a fool and an idiot for thinking an 80s toy commercial cartoon slop is actually super next level genius. Part 1. The Discovery. A desert of ice spans across the screen, riddled with tunnels dug by the Decepticons. Usual plotline, Megatron co-gathering energon, blah blah blah.
Soon this entire planet will freeze into an icy tomb, and we will return to Cybertron with enough energon cubes to dominate the universe.
Megatron monologues for exposition after Starscream boasted about his prowess of locating the crystal shaft leading to the Earth's core. I want to highlight this line because it holds the first mention of the icy tomb. It's a phrase that comes back a few times in the episode and will be relevant to me, so keep it in mind. We then cut to Rumble working at a tunnel, hammering the ice. Enter the higher-ranked Skywarp, mocking the Minicon's strength. Upset, the latter gives his all and provokes an avalanche, catching both him and Skywarp under a layer of snow. Then, Starscream, higher than either of them, approaches the scene and sees them on their rafts, and comments on them slacking and not working hard enough, comparing them to lumps at a smelter. He is unaware of what just happened, but I doubt he would have taken pity on Rumble's mistreatment. Just after Starscream's comment, Megatron arrives, hardly taking notice of the two lower-ranked bots, and asks his second-in-command about what's going on, despite him not being there from the beginning, and Skywarp being the one declaring they found something. This entire scene is a perfect first example of how the Decepticon food chain works.
With his size and probable strength, he will make an excellent Decepticon.
Megatron marvels at the figure enclosed in ice, stroking the cold barrier between him and his new prize, much like a child eagerly looking through the clear packaging of his brand new Transformers toy, impatient to open it. Part 2. Skyfire wakes. Soundwave and the Seekers are shown working on Skyfire's lifeless body, carefully watched by Starscream and Megatron, standing close by. After Thundercracker adding to the Winter Pun quota of this episode, we learn Skyfire's impulse center is down. Starscream orders to give him 50,000 volts to reactivate his memory monitor. Megatron then inquires about why Starscream cares so much about this dead bloke. I sort of like the Frankenstein monstrous coding of the scene, the weird surgery block, and themes of electricity, and how Megatron calls Skyfire a creature. Starscream then answers Megatron's question.
Because I knew him once, a long time ago on Cybertron.
In a much different voice than what we're accustomed to come out of Starscream. Less enlightened people will classify this change as one of the very often occurring mix-ups between the Seeker's voices, but it really just sounds like Chris Latta doing a very serious, less shrill Starscream. He then yells at Soundwave to give Skyfire 1,000,000 volts, and at last, the memory monitor activates.
Skyfire and I were both explorers from Cybertron.
A deeper-voiced Starscream starts narrating.
That must have been shortly before our final falling out with the Autobots.
Megatron comments.
Yes, Skyfire and I were exploring what was an uncharted planet at that time. This one, Earth.
Starscream continues.
We detected no intelligent life on the surface, but Skyfire insisted we look closer. A polar windstorm came up suddenly, and Skyfire and I were separated. I circled half the globe searching for him, but he was gone.
And now, millions of Earth years later, you have found him.
Megatron gladly concludes his tale as he shuts Skyfire's open helm panel. The monster takes his first strained breath as he rises from the penetrating block. He recognizes Starscream and thanks him for rescuing him. Their friendly banter is interrupted by Megatron pushing Starscream away to impose himself in front of the giant bot. He introduces himself as the supreme leader of the Decepticons.
We are on this planet to collect the energy we need to revive Cybertron and conquer the universe.
He adds, "This bit of exposition is really interesting if we combine it to the previous statement about the final falling out with the Autobots. Were there a time where they collaborated? Were there allies with common cause? Cybertron's revival comes obviously to mind, and I will not ramble about this and stay on track. What was the breaking point? In a later episode, Season 2, Episode 43, War Down, Megatron's attack on the energy docks leading to the death of Orion Pax and the creation of Optimus Prime from his remains seemed like a good contender. But let's go back to the future for now. Now adorned with the Decepticon symbol proudly at the center of his chestplate, Skyfire is made to repeat, "Hail Cybertron," and "Destruction to all Autobots," in a very bare-bones, austere ceremony led by Megatron and witnessed by Starscream and the thousands of snowflakes that compose their surroundings. He is then promptly made to be sent on guard patrol as Megatron practically runs off screen with better things to do. Part 3. Starscream and Skyfire.
Are you happier being a warrior than a scientist, Starscream?
Is the most real sentence that was ever spoken in this entire show. I think it really indicates what Skyfire's entire role in this episode is, to show what Cybertronians used to be, civilized people with jobs and occupations and friendships, before there was heroic Autobots and dastardly Decepticons, both alike in dignity, before they destroyed everything. Skyfire also represents the last attachment Starscream had to his previous life, and the way his reply to Skyfire's question is so simple and comes so naturally to him, shows he left everything behind without a single apparent regret.
Yes, it is far more exciting. And one day I, not Megatron, will lead us. And then you will be my second in command.
Starscream here justifies his choice and tries to lure in Skyfire by promising him the role he currently occupies, and that really pins down further he only cares about status and having influence within Decepticon ranks, by offering this to his old friend. "I became powerful, and when I will have even more power, I will grant you some. It's all he has to give now." And it's especially interesting to have this bit of dialogue right after they recite some Decepticon vows that start with "Hail Cybertron." Never is it about the dying planet they abandoned for Starscream. I don't believe Starscream doesn't miss the comfort and stability of the golden age of Cybertron, but at the same time, chaos and violence has given him more enrichment and stimulus than being a scientist and researcher ever could, on top of being the head of his own fleet and being very close to the leader. He also switches back to his usual annoyingly high-pitched voice, once his mask of compassion isn't needed, now that Skyfire has been recruited into their ranks. He shows himself as the violent warrior he now is, rather than Skyfire's old trustworthy friend.
I am grateful to you for freeing me from my tomb of ice. I shall try to bring you credit.
Skyfire replies hesitantly. It's the second time the Icy Tomb is mentioned, and I like to believe it to be like subtle foreshadowing. Ashes to ashes, ice to ice. Part 4. Miserable Machines.
It seems the time has come for me to make the change from science to war.
Skyfire says to himself without much conviction. Now enrolled into the Decepticon army, Skyfire tasks himself with respecting orders from Starscream. All Autobots must be destroyed, he repeats to himself once the Autobots that now stand before him identified themselves. This clearly is not a position that he enjoys or benefits from, merely acting to fit in his new group. He shoots 2 warning shots at the group's feet, his intents exposed out loud to alert the enemy. Even when Sparkplug orders his son to duck as he's going to fire again, no shots are heard. They're simply afraid of him and expect the worst.
"We can't move while that big guy's got us pinned down,"
Hound says, despite him and Cliffjumper being the ones shooting. Skyfire shows inexperience and lack of battle awareness as he drops his position and walks through open fire towards Spike and Sparkplug, screaming for help. Despite his non-combative stance, the Autobots stay on the offensive, shooting at him and considering him a threat to be destroyed. He has not made the change from science to war. He had come to Earth all those years ago to search for intelligent life, and there he found it. He abandons pretending to be a soldier and returns to his original nature. He rescues the creature in need of assistance, promising them he wouldn't harm them, shocked the humans would even see him as a threat.
The Autobots are not evil, they're good.
Spike tries his best to convince Skyfire. We'll see about that. The next sequence opens to this pan that takes us from Skyfire to Megatron and Starscream. Through this hole, too small to allow him to join the others, empathizing his alienness from the Decepticons, showing that he is not only unfit to belong with them, but also shows him much lower, under, first and foremost, Megatron, but also Starscream. They are standing between him and Spike and Sparkplug, who got taken as prisoners, as he innocently brought them to Megatron to prove them the Decepticons aren't evil. The fact that he can't even be in the same room and is forced to witness the abuse without being able to do anything really hammers in his helplessness.
I promised the Earth creatures no harm would come to them. This is wrong.
Skyfire explains calmly, not understanding the situation.
Then you overstepped your authority.
Megatron croaks menacingly after a short pause.
Who are you to offer safety to our enemies, Skyfire?
Starscream drags him further down, separating himself from his old friend in front of the most important person to him. This insubordination has nothing to do with me. As he takes his stand and refuses to let this happen, Skyfire reaches in the ice cavern in hopes to free the innocent humans, and Starscream shoots at his hand without hesitation. Skyfire does not understand this cruel action. Starscream uses violence to assert dominance because not only Skyfire is a newcomer that needs to learn his place in the Decepticon hierarchy, but he is huge, also an Oriolbot, and the only reason Megatron wanted him out of the ice and put in line was because he could be a powerful asset, therefore menacing Starscream's spots directly, so he feels like he has to show himself as a dangerous individual to take on, especially in front of Megatron. Skyfire is a kind, compassionate, and curious person, and is also someone who Starscream used to associate with, and it scares him to let others think that once he could have been similar. Starscream is driven more by the thirst for power and the freedom to be violent. Being part of the Decepticon allows him to satiate for the most part, rather than by pure political beliefs, and only sees the war as means to climb the hierarchical ladder, and be known and feared and powerful. And Skyfire represents traits he despises and is afraid to resemble.
My function is to further science and learning, not to destroy innocent life forms.
Skyfire thinks, rejecting once again violence and his Decepticon status, after Starscream tells him his human friends are insignificant and will be destroyed. Not killed, destroyed, like trash. It's the moment Skyfire understands he is not on the right side. It's the moment that confirms the fact that Skyfire will have to die. What remains of Cybertronian as a species is violent warriors. Even the so-called peaceful Autobots have no other choice but to retaliate against the Decepticon violence in order to survive, and most times are also the source of the battles. Either you fight or you rust. Any failure to change and accept the current violent state of things will lead straight to the scrap heap.
Those years under the ice diminished your loyalty coefficient, Skyfire. But because of our old friendship, I shall be generous. You may have the pleasure of melting down these Autobots.
His fate is set, once and for all, when, in his refusal to execute cornered Autobots by Starscream's orders, his own savior, old co-worker and friend, shoots him in the chest after calling him a traitor.
Miserable machine.
Hound lets out about Starscream as he is forced to witness the senseless violence of a commander shooting down his subordinate. I absolutely adore this line. Beyond the obvious robot imagery, there's something about the machine part in itself. Yes, he's a robot, but he also is a miserable, insecure, untrusting, terrified, power-hungry machine that merely executes order. Because he wants to, certainly, but also because he has to. Every Cybertronian is a miserable machine, executing orders mindlessly, forced to participate in a war that destroys both parties if they want a small chance of survival.
Farewell, Autobot parts! As for you, Skyfire, consider yourself fortunate that you did not end up like your friends.
Starscream croaks after laughing at the remains of the Autobots he believes to be destroyed. He then steps over a still conscious Skyfire groaning in pain, still in shock from what just happened. I think here, the injury is both physical but also emotional. He was still hoping Starscream would understand him, but now he has the confirmation that their old ties are severed forever. Despite leaving him almost for dead, Starscream shows a sliver of mercy by not killing him. It's also an interesting facet of Starscream, one that actively avoids conclusions. More on that later. Part 5. Skyfire lives, the cycle continues. Then, you get the very interesting scene of Megatron and Starscream hanging out with their Nerd cubes they were collecting. As Megatron is receiving a message from Laserbeak, affiliated to Soundwave and Megatron, that Starscream failed executing the Autobots. It shows that, despite Starscream being officially the second in command, he is not above Soundwave's cretinous eyes. Megatron throws a cube at his head and tells him, "You disgust me," without Starscream even knowing why he deserves such treatment. He just rubs his face and looks at Megatron, dumbfounded, as he is being yelled at about his failure.
Hounds, holograms, they tricked me!
He says on a tone that insinuates that he is not surprised, but he also knew about Hound's ability, as it is not mentioned by Megatron at all. I like to believe he didn't kill the Autobots on purpose. The execution scenario shows Starscream's single blaster shot hitting the crystal the Autobots were backed against, and that's it. Starscream benefits from the war going on for as long as possible. He gets to be violent and powerful, as mentioned earlier. I believe his incompetence is carefully measured, allowing him to keep his prestigious title while failing at the critical moments that could make the war take a turn towards the finish line. It is worth it to him, despite his closeness to Megatron allowing him to unleash his own cruelty and violence against him. Anyways, back to Skyfire. The next scene we see Skyfire operational, he makes his drastic change. Rather than bearing the Decepticon symbol imposed upon him, he makes his own decision to become an Autobot, siding with Optimus Prime and grabbing Megatron to throw him away from his new allies. He decides to take part, so he resorts to violence. Starscream then flies overhead, shooting at him.
You forget, Starscream! I can transform too! Time to even the score, friend!
He says as he transforms to his alt mode and flies behind Starscream, pronouncing that last word with so much pain in his voice it contrasts between his own very personal business with Starscream and the Autobots on the ground screaming at him, cheering him on to destroy his old friend brutally. Then, Skyfire, for the first time, attacks Starscream. He flies into him, their bodies clashing into each other. Starscream quickly crashes, and everyone cheers, as the larger plane staggers and starts losing attitude, probably in shock and in pain at what he was just encouraged to do. The very thing he refused to do earlier. Is it better now that it's the Autobots that are pushing him to be violent? Here, he recognizes that in so little time, he became what he despised, but also that this is the only choice for him, regardless of which side he allies himself with. You will only have violence and heartbreak. Your friends will turn against you and leave you for dead in the cold snow.
One last blast!
He groans in pain, turning around, probably trying to hype himself to shoot his friend and fellow Cybertronian that lays immobile somewhere in the snow. He ends up aiming at a glacier to bury the crystal relevant to the plot under it so that no one gets to access it again. He crashes and the avalanche buries him, returning into his icy tomb, along with Starscream, as Spike screams in horror. Suddenly, it's less fun when someone on your side dies. Part 6. Skyfire's gone. All the Autobots stand where Skyfire's body rests. I refuse to believe a few meters of freshly collapsed ice would prevent a rescue mission. But the Autobots understand and respect Skyfire's decision to sacrifice himself. They know he and Starscream were close, and that the falling out between the two, the fact that he was in stasis for the entire war so far, his awakening throwing him into this bloodshed and misery he was not prepared for. He is better off dead. He never should have left the icy tomb. To comfort the crying Spike, Optimus says, he will live forever, so long as freedom exists. Now I want to ask, what in there was even close to freedom? In a world where you must pick a side, where you must fight and kill to survive, what freedom is there really? Why is Optimus Prime lying again? The thing is, Optimus idealizes sacrifice. Once again, Skyfire died for a good cause, the Earth is saved, etc., etc. It's a good thing he killed himself. I don't want to get too in-depth about Optimus. It's not his time to shine, and but I need to address like what I have in mind about him. But yeah, that's it. Meow. So that was like poorly recorded. I'm sure I speak too fast and my accent's awful. I will have subtitles, obviously, and the whole essay can be found probably on AO3 by the time I post this. It's the first time I really like speak for a video or anything. So be nice to me, meow. Yeah, if you have like interesting remarks or anything, feel free to comment. I'd love to exchange with you people. Also like AO3 has a wonderful comment functionality. Please use it. And also you could just shoot me an ask on Tumblr if you're shy. And yeah, that's it. Bye bye. Meow. I need to fucking stop meowing. Also, if you like what I say about robots, I highly suggest you go read my beloved fanfiction, Inside the Nemesis. I'll link it in the description. I'm very proud of it, I really like it, and if you've enjoyed my takes, I think you'll like it. It's like funny, it's a little fucked up, and there's like drawings in there and stuff. Tee.